Qatium use cases. So here we're looking at everything, well, a subset of what Qatium can do. So we'll talk today about having clear view of tank operations. So we'll dive deep as much as we can in the allotted time in tanks. But what the other things that you can do too is managing the impact of water main shutdown. So whether you're actually doing some maintenance on an asset, or whether you're repairing it or whether you're replacing it, you'll be able to see the impact on your customers. So how is the customer pressure being impacted? How many users or customers are being cut off? How much of the service are we actually supplying at every point in time? So managing demands, whether it's for new development, whether it's for fire flow simulations, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, we can do flushing, we can manage pressures, and obviously, as I mentioned, with real-time data, so live data that I mentioned a little bit earlier, SCADA, AMI, we can create a real-time hydraulic model. So that's what I'm going to dive in right now and show you a little bit about Qatium and how does it look and feel. So if I feel like everyone is seeing my screen, so right now we just jumped inside Qatium. So here we're in the interface, we're in our favorite demo network. As you can see, I'm off the coast of Australia in a very, very nice island. So I am to believe. And so in that island, what we have is a series of assets. So just looking at what networks element I have on my island. So I'd have pipes, hydrants, junctions, customers. We have added a couple of regulating valves, pumps and tanks and so on to make sure that we cover all the cases of everyone tuning in today. But it is not necessary to have everything from the beginning inside your network. We've seen a lot of utilities that first added their pipes with their tanks and pumps and PRVs, their main assets, and then as they go along, add their customers and their hydrants and all their and all their actually shutdown valves. So as I mentioned very quickly at the beginning, so Qatium is really easy to use, or we really strive to make it easy to use. So one thing that we do allow in Qatium is drag and dropping layers of data. So whether it's an INP model or whether it's GIS data, whether it's historical readings, we can just drag and drop it. But just for the purpose of the demo, I'm just showing you where does it fit, where did it fall into the interface. So you're able to actually see all the layers that were added inside Qatium. So I'm going to just move back out and just give you a little overview of what you're actually seeing on the map. So those beautiful hexagons are customer pressure. So you can see here on the top right that I have a panel with customer pressure that I can activate, deactivate. Same thing for the flows. So you can see those beautiful animation here that I can activate and deactivate. Those animations are actually following the movement of the water. So what is the simulation telling me? And because this simulation is in real time, so we're injecting synthetic data to showcase live data inside Qatium. And you can see that I have those little blue icons here that symbolize live data. And as I have live data, you might have noticed something is that little orange icon here at the bottom in my calendar view. So I'm just going to go to that day, which what does that mean? It means that I have a warning. So I can see on my timeline at the bottom that I have a warning from about 5 a.m. to about 1 p.m. And so if I select any point in time in my timeline, I'll be able to see where those warnings are in my network and dive deeper into them. So let's have a look a little bit of those warnings, and I'll dive a little bit more into the tank warnings here. So here in Qatium, we have a holistic view of the tank. So not only you can dive deep, like I'm doing right now by selecting the tank, but also have insight about what is happening. Even if I didn't understand what is happening and what the graphs are telling me, I actually have it written down that the volume is unusually low at this point in time. So I can see what is the threshold value for my tank. So it's 50% of my tank level. I can also see what the simulation is telling me that the tank should be doing, and the actual live data in dark blue and partly orange once it crosses that threshold. So thinking about that warning and how am I going to manage that tank issue is really what Qatium has been thought of, and really thinking about, okay, what do I do now? So I know that it's not a live and not sorry, it is live. It is not response webinar, but if we had some suggestions from the crowd, I don't know if anyone wants to give it a guess into the chat or into the Q&A, but we can start to think about, okay, trying to locate a little bit further that where does the issue lie inside the network. But one immediate question that we might have is, how long do I have to actually fix that issue, right? So saying that basically at this point in time, with that current demand, with that current outflow from my tank, how long do I have until my tank is actually empty? So thinking about the tank autonomy. So I have here a tank autonomy panel that I just opened, and just hovering on top of those tanks, I can actually see which one I'm talking about. So if I was interested in that horseshoe bay tank, which has a very large autonomy, and I'm wondering where it is, if I'm a new operator and so on, I can do that very easily. But if I try to go back to my tank with the lowest autonomy, which is the one that is causing some issues right now, I see that I have actually 6 hours before the tank ran out. I could also start creating some scenario to try to palliate and to find a remedy, find a solution to that situation. And whatever I do, whatever scenario, whether it's adding some demand, whether it's turning on and off a pump, whether it's isolating a tank, so I'm going to give it a go. So saying like, okay, we're actually going to close off that tank, and actually I will be able to see that that tank autonomy panel is going to be completely updating based on all the scenarios that I'm creating. So what does that mean that you can also plan operations with this panel, diving deep into the what and where and of my tank. If I decide to go and create a scenario on another side of the island where I have another interesting tank with a lot of water in it. If I want to simulate a leak, for example, and I am going to select that particular junction, and I am going to add a leak that reduces my pressure to 20 meters, for example, and I will see directly that my tank is emptying very, very fast and going from a 5-day autonomy to 2 hours. And I know that we're a little bit running out of time, and I really want to give you the opportunity to ask question in that Q&A. So I will stop right here, talking and diving into tanks, but this is a little bit mastering the view of tank operation inside Qatium. So being able to see all down to the details. So of that tank, but also being able to have some invaluable insights through the tank autonomy in order to plan operations behind that scenario and that issue. So I'll switch back to the end of the presentation, saying that all this that you've seen right now, so the tank autonomy and so on, has been built internally by Qatium, but thanks to an SDK that is now in beta. So the idea is that not only Qatium, but also other plugin developers will be able to add and contribute to Qatium platform to answer needs from any utility or any consultant out there in the water industry. So really, the idea being to extend the capability of Qatium as well as integrate. Right, I mentioned adding SCADA data, AMI data earlier in the presentation. Here we're talking also to continue to integrate with other sets of data, to being able to integrate with other platforms, and all thanks to the SDK and other connectors that will hopefully be built by Qatium and its partners. So I don't know, Yara, if there's been any questions in the chat or in the Q&A.
Yeah, we do have one. Just do I need to install anything to get started?
Yes, that's a great point. So something that I didn't mention and that maybe doesn't feel very obvious the way I presented it. So Qatium is actually in a browser. So as you can see here, I'm actually running Qatium in Chrome, so there is nothing to be installed. It works on any machine. So we have customers that are using it on tablets, on phones, on Mac, on PCs. Even some of our developers are using it on Linux. So yeah, no, it's definitely the idea is really to provide the best range of applications and again, from smaller to largest customer, whatever your flavor of Qatium is, you probably can get it and get access to it. I see that there's another one that just came in, is how long does the typical implementation takes? That is a great question too. So it really depends on the implementation. So it ranges from a day, yeah, I'm not kidding, just a day, to a couple of weeks, really depending on what is the data. I'm really thinking about the live data connection and so on, and also the model building phase. So depending on all that, but we have users that get started in a day. The reason they can do that is because with Qatium you can aggregate and update your models with your GIS data and your live data. So making sure that you have all this information at hand. We've done some very, very fast implementation. So yeah.
I think that's all for questions for now, David. So let's see, we have about 5 minutes left. If you do want to drop another question either in the Q&A section or the chat, feel free to. We do have another 5 minutes. Otherwise, really, really grateful for everyone that joined the first Qatium in Action webinar. Just so you know, we'll have one of these every single month, and on each we're going to walk you through a different Qatium use case. aside from that, we're also going to have community webinars. We do have a Slack community. On the 7th of May, we have our first community webinar, and our Director of Innovation and one of our product engineers will be walking you through how to build a plugin step by step. So for any updates and to join these webinars or to register, feel free to join our Slack community. You can do so by typing in www.qatium.com/community. And you can also keep up to date with our posts on socials, mostly on LinkedIn is where you will find us most active. Anything else that we need to cover, David?
I've been monitoring the Q&A, and I think there's one last one, which is, do I need live data to start in Qatium? So the answer is definitely no. We have a number of customers that are using their model offline. So really the idea of Qatium is that if you have live data, it's great, and it really gives you emergency responses, warnings. We've just seen it, insights about your tanks and so on. So really create simulations with the latest live data. So that is all good and great. But actually, if you're looking for answers about, okay, what happens if I'm doing a water main shutdown? So if I have a pipe to isolate or an asset to isolate, and what is going to be the impact in my network, having live data is not mandatory. So we can definitely have very good insights from the model and from Qatium directly without live data. Obviously, the model needs to be calibrated to be confident about the flows and about the pressures, but we can definitely get you started. And I'm sure that I speak for the whole Qatium and specifically the customer success team that will be happy to give you a hand on getting onboarded every step of the way if you have any issues. So whether it's technical support, whether it's really on the onboarding, training, and so on. So don't hesitate to reach out if you've signed up already, or if you're planning to sign up and you're struggling with one side or the other, whether it's gathering data, who do I need to contact in my organization, and so on. So feel free to reach out, and we'll definitely help you to find that data to make all of it account and to make you successful, helping you out.